There are three types of minor scale that we're worried about when it comes to our exams when we're taking piano. There's the natural minor, the harmonic minor, and the melodic minor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a very basic scale, which is A minor, and I'm going to explore the difference between them. But before I talk about the A minor, I'm going to talk about C major and just demonstrate what a relative minor is and a relative major, because just in case you don't know, there is such a thing as a relative major and minor, and all it is it's the major or minor key that shares the same rules, i.e. the same sharps or flats, as a particular major or minor key. So if you've got C major, for example, we can establish that there's no sharps or flats, it's all based around the white key. So somewhere on the keyboard we're able to play a minor scale using nothing but sharps, nothing but white keys. And we can find the relative minor of any major scale by recognizing that it is the 6th degree. So here's C, and if I count 6, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I get A. And that is A minor. So logically, I can play an A minor scale by using exactly the same principles as the C major scale, really, which is basically there are no sharps or flats in it. So C major is all white keys. If I go to A and do exactly the same thing and just play a scale using only white keys, then I get an A minor. But what is it? That is what we call the A natural minor. So that's the first thing that we have to worry about, the A natural minor scale. Some people call that, that's also a mode, it's called the Aeolian mode. So that is basically natural minor. So if we use an example where there are actually sharps in it, so let's use a basic one like G major. We know that G major has one sharp in it, it's an F sharp. Now, the 6th degree of G, G, A, B, C, D, E, is the minor, so that's E minor. So the relative minor of G is E minor. Now we know that G has an F sharp in it, so if I play a scale starting on E, but change all the Fs to F sharp and make no other alterations, then we have E minor Aeolian or E natural minor. Okay, so what we'll do next is we'll talk about the harmonic minor. So let's go back to our major scale and let's go back to the C major scale for this. What we'd like about, and what composers like about the major scale is the note at the end that leads back to the first note, the tonic, which is called a leading note. And a leading note is basically a semitone lower than the tonic, and that's the whole point of it. So we've got C, D, E, F, G, A, leading note, B, C. And what that allows you to do is make nice cadences, for example, a perfect cadence, which is a G to a C, because we've got the B that sort of anchors it, which is lovely. But in the natural minor, we don't have that, because if we go back to A minor, A natural minor, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, that isn't a leading note, because that is a whole tone now. So what they did was they created a leading note by sharpening it. They raised it up by a semitone, and they created, in this case, a G sharp, and they made it a leading note. So that's what the difference is between a natural minor and a harmonic minor. It's the raised seventh. So harmonic minor of A minor would be exactly the same, all the white notes, except G becomes G sharp. So what you get is and of course that affects the way that they can compose there, because we've got a G sharp rather than a G natural, which means that we can't use, for example, the chord of G. What we have to do is think of a chord that has G sharp in it. Well, what chord has G sharp in it? E major. So a very, very common chordal progression in classical music was based around the chords A minor and then an E major, or an E major seventh, an E seventh maybe, And of course, that allows them to still maintain the idea of a perfect cadence, only now they're in a minor key. They can do a perfect cadence like this with an E major. I do it like that. So that's the difference there. Now, there is a very slight difference still with there's actually quite a big difference between that and the melodic minor. So the melodic minor, you're one step away really from knowing what the melodic minor is now. But what you do is you kind of have to splice the first two together, but make one very, very simple alteration. So basically, what people then realised that they didn't like was that you get, this is all fine, so in your harmonic, this is all fine, and then here you had like this big jump. It was like an F to a G sharp. It's an augmented second, effectively, and people didn't like that. They're like, well, that's not really very melodic, literally, because a scale should be made up of whole and half tones, basically, like all the other, natural minors are, and obviously all the major scales are. So what they did was they closed that gap by raising the sixth. So what they did was, so they raised the F sharp as well in A minor. So there's that. But they only did that for the ascent. When they came down, they switched it completely and they went back to the natural minor. So bearing in mind the natural minor cancels all sharps and flats out of it, that's literally what they did. So they went up like this and then came down like that. So just to give you an idea of an A melodic minor all the way through, that would be. And there's your differences. So there's your three types of scale: your natural minor scale, your harmonic minor scale, and your melodic minor scale. It's worth knowing all three of them, and it's worth practicing them all as well, because they are, in their own ways, they do anchor different types of music to them. So it's worth having a good understanding of how each of them work and how each of them relate to one another as well.